What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the State Champs Extra Point and Prediction Podcast. I know that we are a day late, definitely $1 short, but we have assembled the boys to do this, and we appreciate your patience. We got a lot to get to. We're going to get right to it. Let me just quickly welcome Matt Mowry, Sean Belesian, Scott Bernstein, Kevin Trzynski on the Wheels of Steel over there. I'm Lauren Plant, and again, a lot to get to. It's week 9 of the high school football season. I can't believe we're here.
Unbelievable.
But we're here, and we're going to get into everything that's going on. First off, I want to thank Lawrence Technological University for being the major sponsor of this particular program. And again, we had a great game here at Lawrence Tech on Saturday. Indiana Wesleyan and Lawrence Tech got together. If you're interested in knowing about Lawrence Tech football, you can check out the podcast that is up right now. On the L2 Athletics YouTube page. I had a chance every week to talk with head coach Jeff Duvendeck. Lawrence Tech suffered their first defeat, lost 38-24. This is a team that will be in their division next year, the Mid-States Football Conference. Really good game. They had the lead at one point. Turnovers is really what sealed their fate, but it was a great game. And again, this is a team, being Wesleyan, that has a lot of transfers, a lot of D2, even D1 players that were former D1 players on their squad, and they've been around a year longer than Lawrence Tech. So.
They've actually done a little bit kind of what Lawrence Tech has been trying to, or what Lawrence Tech is trying to do right now. The growth of Indiana Wesleyan over this last decade has been tremendous. They put a lot of money into their sports programs, into their facilities, and they've used it as a branding mechanism, the way that Lawrence Tech is trying to do.
15,000 students at that university, so it dwarfs Lawrence Tech when it comes to that. Anyway, it was a great game. So the MHSA is also a sponsor. Obviously, it's big time MHSA. We've got state finals going on in various sports, and obviously the playoffs getting going in football next week. We thank them for their partnership and Hungry Howie's. Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser is what we like to support. We're actually the only entity that supports and promotes their Dough Raiser program, which they've had a lot of success at. It's fundraising. It's real easy to do, and it's really great for your school, maybe even for your team, for your brother's team. Check it out, doughrazor.com. All right, here's what we have in store. We're going to recap some of the games that took place last weekend. Not all that we talked about, but some of them. We're going to come back, talk about the Hungry Howie's Mr. Football race. Did we make a change this week? We'll see. We'll also update the Anvil Award voting. Then Alan True will join us for the Michigan Student Aid Recruit Report. We've got 4 Michigan high schoolers making some noise. Matt Mowry's going to update his rankings. We will close by previewing some of the more notable Week 9 matchups, and we'll take a look at some of the bracketology that's even out there right now in terms of playoff matches. And we'll talk about a little bit of bracketology kind of throughout what we do. And if you are interested in checking that out, Snooze to You is the guy who does it. Snooze2u.com is where you can check it out. He's kind of got it through Week 8 right now, but he tends to be pretty darn accurate when it comes to picking the matchup. So he's already kind of got it laid out there. 1 through 8. But again, there's always changes. We're going to see what 5 and 4 teams get in, teams that won last week, because we did have some upsets.
He's got a PhD in bracketology.
He does. He does. So let's get to some of the games that you can watch right now on State Champs YouTube page, our State Champs website, statechampsnetwork.com, Facebook, Twitter. We got these highlights all over the place. Romeo and Chip Valley got together in Romeo. This game was a game of kind of two tales. Romeo really came out well and did great, and it really wasn't until David Ellis had that 90-yard touchdown return, kickoff return, that really kind of stemmed the tide, and then it was from there on out, it was Chip Valley. They outscored 14-7, I think, in the fourth quarter, and that's really what made the difference.
David Ellis is lightning in a bottle. This kid has a chance to take it to the house every time he touches the ball, whether you're talking special teams or splitting out wide as a wide receiver. I think before the season, it was kind of a foregone conclusion that River Rouge's Deron McKinney was the best return man in the state. He had something like 12 returns last year for
that
touchdowns.
Still could be the case.
Yeah, but hey, man, David Ellis right now, I'd put up against Deron McKinney, and he can hold his own.
Yeah,
they're both going to be, I think, guys that exceed expectations at the next level.
He just decommitted. Now is
Now
going
he's
to
in
Indiana. Was
and
going
we-
to Central
it was
Michigan.
actually kind of, we talked about
Yeah,
it
we
on,
did.
on our last episode last
Within
week.
hours.
Alan
Yeah.
True said, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up flipping to Indiana, and then like a couple hours
Yeah,
later,
there it was.
he flips, got that Big Ten offer. But for Coach Merchant and Chippewa Valley, their first outright title since 1975.
Wow.
Okay, so they did have one.
Well, they were in the
previous.
St. Clair conference then.
Ah,
They've never won
so
a
it
big.
wasn't a
They've
MAC
never run
Red.
a MAC Red
Right,
outright.
They shared
They've
the MAC Red in the
two.
early
Yeah,
2000s.
exactly.
Yes. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations to them. Again, they're 8-0 now. And,
And then
by the way,
Marcel Lewis caught another touchdown.
Yeah.
He's a linebacker going to Michigan State,
Yep.
but
Yeah.
he's a pretty good tight end. He's got some pretty soft hands for
yeah, 41-34 was the final. Romeo did stay in there. Romeo now at 5-3.
That's a good team too, Romeo. I mean,
very good.
that's a hard luck 5-3. I don't know if I'd want to play that team early in a
Oh my God,
playoff.
talk about battle testing.
Yes.
Yeah.
These last 2 weeks going through Dakota and Chip in both games, slugfest.
Yeah.
Of the 5-win teams right now, Romeo has the most playoff wins.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like by a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll get in even
yeah.
at 5-4.
Yep. And the funny thing is, you were talking about David Ellis. Okay, so you figure if you're a special teams, coordinator or head coach on the other side, kick away from him. Except Cardi Johnson returned one for a touchdown in that game too. So they have other people who can hurt you if you decide that David Ellis is not the guy we're going to let beat us.
Right.
That's hard when you've got that kind of diversified weaponry. And
And you got Javon Kimpson, who's a
just keeps
cornerback
plugging
going,
along, yep.
going to the Division I level. Now he's starting to really come into his own as a tailback. So you just got a lot of versatility on that Chip roster.
No doubt. Depth, versatility, a team that just kind of has got that magic, and they've got that mojo.
Yeah.
And we see it. We see it in high school a lot with teams that all of a sudden just kind of really rise and ascend in a really magical way in a season. So, but the Division I playoffs, we all know, are talk about
It's
the
a
gauntlet.
gauntlet.
It is
Oh.
a gauntlet. And we see so many games come down to the final play, the final few seconds, and it's an extra point here or whatever that makes the decisions. And so it's going to be a great journey, and it starts next week.
But
So
last thing I'll say about
yeah.
Chip, this is a team that has fulfilled all of the
Absolutely.
expectations, and sometimes that's not easy to do.
Absolutely.
because the target was on their back from last year going
jump.
forward.
Yes.
Everyone
Yeah.
knew that this was the team. This was kind of the new powers that be in the MAC Red, and that that they had a lot of expectations, and they fulfilled every single one of them.
They sure have. Okay, Fenton and Swartz Creek got together. This was for the kind of the Flint Metro title. If somehow Swartz Creek could pull it out,
eliminate. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not. It's still up for grabs.
Well, now I think-
Actually, I think it's
It
just
is.
three
I think,
teams that are
three
doing
teams.
it.
6-1.
Brandon
Yeah.
next week will
Yeah.
fight for a share of it.
Yes.
Yeah, and
It-
Flushing also can get a
Exactly. It's
6-1.
still-
So it's
yeah.
it's still going.
all the way up for grabs. But Fenton really surprisingly wins it 41-10. And Spencer Rivera, 3 rushing touchdowns for Fenton. He was amazing in this game. They own Swartz Creek. I mean, I think it's 11 times now in a row that they've beat them. But we were all kind of caught up in the story of Swartz Creek
Right,
this season. So both teams now at 6-2.
Right. That's one too where you look at how the schedule went, and then you knew that it was kind of backloaded for them. They had kind of the powers that be in the conference at the very end of the schedule, and now they're going to have to kind of run that gauntlet and face back-to-back Fenton and Brandon. And we said last week that Fenton was kind of locked out of the title for the first time in a long time, but they were going to still have a say in it, and this is exactly how.
And I believe it was Johnny Kidd who was the only one that took Fenton in our predictions. We were all on the Chip Valley bandwagon last week. So, but yeah, good on them. Muskegon, Mona Shores, and Muskegon.
The
Again,
big one.
again, this
Lived up to the hype.
it
Yeah.
did, and we all took Muskegon because we felt there was just no way that this team is going to lose. Mona Shores had different plans, but unfortunately,
So had like 90 points.
Cameron Martinez, man, if there is not a front runner for our Mr. Football Award, and you have to say it.
Oh, there is.
We have never had a Mr. Football winner come from the same school, number one, let alone in back-to-back years.
Same position.
Yeah, and for the fact that 350 yards and 6 touchdowts in this game is
That's
what
a good
he
season for a quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. 55-35 was the final, but I mean, they've beaten De La Salle, they've beaten King, they've beaten Mona Shores. They were all undefeated when they came in, but went home with an L.
Muskegon's interesting because they've come back from being down earlier this year. They were down by quite a bit. Was it week 2, week 3, and end up just rolling away? This was one where they got up to the big lead, and they had to push back on. They had to push back
Yeah.
on a Mona Shores team that came flying back.
Yeah, they scored had points on 3 of their first 6 offensive plays. Muskegon did. So they obviously set the tone very early, but yeah, Mona Shores has got a lot of pride, and they're a good team.
And we talked before in the preview that we weren't sure what the status of Sincere Dent was, and I think
Right.
he only played. He had 6 yards and 1 touchdown.
Yeah, that's huge.
Didn't play a lot, and,
Yeah.
and as Matt Kozak, the coach at Mona Shores, said, big picture. We want him to help us go to Ford Field. So they kind of once it started getting out of hand and they were passing more anyway, they just kind of had him out. But it wasn't. I know we talk so much about Cameron Martinez because he's been so special all year long. But we keep harping on the fact that it's not a one-man team, certainly.
No.
I mean, with that offensive line, they rushed as a team for 589 yards. That's 1/3 of a mile.
Yeah, exactly. Against an undefeated squad.
Against a really good team,
Yeah.
a top 10 team
Yes.
that deserves to still be in the top 10.
Yes.
It's one of those where, this does more for Muskegon's resume than it does for Mona Shore's resume.
Coach Fairfield has this program perennially primed.
No,
I mean, it's like the machine-like efficiency that this group rolls out every year. No matter who's at quarterback, no matter who's catching the ball, who's running the ball. Shane Fairfield does just a tremendous job with the consistency that he's brought to that program, and ever since I've been covering football, they're the class of the West Side, and they're a team that they can stack up with probably any team in the whole Midwest.
They are just a few plays short of winning some of those state championships that
Yeah.
they lost.
Well, the Brother Rice, a couple of those losses were like,
they had the
the crazy,
crazy
with
kickoff.
Jason Alessi,
Yeah, throwing back to Alessi. I mean, so we'd be talking about a real dynasty.
And then Orchard Lake won on the last play of the game.
exactly.
A couple years ago with Caden Priestcorn hitting Kyron Cunningham.
Yep. So again, Muskegon hasn't fallen off at all. If anything, they're dominating more than ever, and it's just amazing what they're doing. It's going to be really interesting to see if anybody's going to be able to compete with them in the playoffs.
Assembly line of swagger.
Yeah. Absolutely. Zeeland East and Zeeland West, you throw out the records when these two get together. Same records actually
Except
coming
they're
in.
good records,
Yeah. So
Same record, same field.
Yeah.
and it was it was amazing, really great comeback by Zeeland East. They were trailing 28-14 in the second quarter. But obviously that means you've got a lot of time to come back and get it done. The final of this one was 48-34 for the OK Green title. Zeeland East wins it. The Chicks come back. The senior Gabe Taylor, the quarterback, who we know is known for his running, but he had 5 TDs. 3 of them were passing, 2 of them rushing. If you see the highlights, you'll see he had a couple really, really nice plays, some bombs, and Zeeland East walks away with it.
And Josh Fusco, his partner in the
Yeah.
backfield, had 122 yards and 2 scores. They've had to come back from a couple of deficits. I'm trying to remember, was it Forest Hill Central maybe that had them down early in the season? But they've had a couple of times where they've been tested and they've answered that call late in the second. And that again is good for going into the postseason. They're not done with their conference race though. I mean, that all that does is set up this week where they have a one-loss Hudsonville Unity Christian team.
Yeah, so they've
For
got
the
at
OK
least a
Green team,
share.
They've got at least a share
Yeah.
right now, but they would like to win it outright, and they're going to have to beat
Absolutely.
Unity Christian to do that.
Which would be a
That's a
tough
good
game.
squad too.
Yeah.
And quickly backtracking for a little recruiting note,
Yeah.
Mr. Fusco just committed to Indiana Wesleyan.
Well, there you go.
Putting it all together.
It all ties in. There you
I think
go.
it just happened a day or two ago.
Okay, well, there you go. So good on them, and we'll see how the Zeeland teams do moving forward. Riverview and Grozeal got together. Another game you can watch on State
The
Chance.
Zach attack.
Yes,
Zach
exactly.
Thompson
By the
and
way, I was the only one that took West in our predictions. You guys all went with East, and I was looking good early, but didn't finish well. With this one, I believe.
Zach
I think-
Thompson
I
train
think-
is rolling. for
Yeah, I
Grozeal.
know that I took Grozeal, and I know you took Grozeal. John took Grozeal. I wasn't sure if you went with Riverview or not, but
think I'm Grozeal,
I think
too.
you.
I
I
think
think
we-
we
I
were.
think we- I think
Yeah,
we
we're
were
all
unanimous
on
on
the Red Devil train right now, and again undefeated. They not only win the Huron League, they win the Colvin Cup, which is what that game is between Riverview and Grozeal. But they were down 14-0 in that one.
Great story this year. I know we talked about it extensively a couple of weeks ago, but 8-0, coming back the way they did, just an outstanding story with this team. And, I think as we were talking about a few weeks ago, they were a team that hadn't had some home games. They've had some big home games, and they're making the home crowd happy right now. That's a fun story. That's stories like this is what make high school football just so cool to me,
For sure.
When they were held to 50 yards of total offense in the first half, and then they had to score. I think Luke Harwood had 2 rushing touchdowns in the last 7 minutes to pull it out for him. And those are the kind of things, again, it's kind of a theme for this week of those tests that you need before the playoffs. Because if you just skate through unbeaten and you're not really tested at all, it doesn't make you any better. These are the kind of games that make you better come playoff time.
And they've Crestwood this week? Is it Crestwood this week?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's another test. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another
How many
test.
teams have their own island?
Right.
Right? Very few.
They plant a flag, and with that football program, they're the pride of that community.
Absolutely.
And I'm just a big fan of what they do over there. And like I said, the Zach Attack, Zach Thompson, their quarterback, kind of the heartbeat of that squad, and is doing a great job leading them on the gridiron.
To me, it feels like we have an unusually large number of undefeateds this year. It just feels like we've got more than usual, But I'm sure I'm wrong. It just feels that way, and maybe it's just because we're taking such an active interest in looking at everything around the state, than not focusing so much on Metro Detroit.
Well, and I think part of it too is there are some stories like this where there are new teams too.
Yeah.
Because if you have the traditional powers, is anyone
Yeah, Muskegon.
confused that Muskegon's?
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah,
Or
it
if
does.
Mona Shores were, or
Yeah.
when the traditional powers are, it doesn't really ring a bell with you.
Right.
But when a Grosse Seal or a
resonate
South
as-
Lion, or it doesn't resonate
as
with
much
you.
as
Yeah.
the great feel-good
Yep.
stories.
Absolutely. So those are the games you can watch. There's other games you can watch, highlights from Week 8 in the high school football season that you can check out, again, on our YouTube page, on our website, on Facebook, on Twitter. It's all over the place, so go check it out. All right, other games of interest around the state that took place last week. We're going to go through some of what we talked about and previewed last week. Walled Lake Western and South Lyon did get together. I believe that, except for John, we all felt South Lyon would be able to defend the den, and they did.
I think they were up 21-0.
21-0
Mhm.
first quarter.
I don't know what's going on with Walled Lake Western right now. The talent level that they have there, the explosiveness they have there, at least on offense, isn't commiserate with what they're doing in their big games. They're winning the games they quote unquote should win, but when they're playing, any semblance of competition, when we're talking about Lakeland
Yep.
or having to come back and rally to beat South Lyon East or Walled Lake Western or Catholic Central to start the season, they're not coming with their A game. In fact, they're not even really coming with their B game.
You know what? It seems like yesterday we were talking about that CC game, and I don't think any of us really like their chances. But I remember my thought was this is a team that
I
with
picked
a
them.
new
I
coach,
picked them to win that
Yeah.
game.
or with a new coach, they're going to go like this, and they're going to get better as the year went on. It hasn't happened yet. It doesn't mean that it can't happen. They can catch lightning in a bottle, so to speak, get hot at the right time. But at this point in time, boy, that's a great point on your part. There's still a little. Some uneasy water, if you will.
Yeah, and they're just 5-3 right now.
Yep.
But tip your hat to South Lyon. We're talking about a couple minutes ago. I said the feel good stories that resonate. Well, this one's resonating on a major league level, and Coach Henson. Really out of the blue, 8-0. They were 1-8 last year. They have a slippery. Dynamic running back in Ian Goins, who missed the first 3 weeks of the season and has just been rushing like gangbusters ever since. They got a really nice junior class, 13 sophomores that started last year that are juniors now. Quarterback Connor Fracassi and Brandon Locke and Ronnie Menard as are pretty solid receivers for Fracassi, and they're just there's nothing flashy, there's nothing.
Yeah, so you're going to be able to see them on the show this week because they're taking on South Lyon East, so they've got that little rivalry going. South Lyon needs a win.
That should be a good game.
Yeah, it should be a good game, but right now Lakes Valley belongs to the Lions. Reading and Springport got together. This was in the Big 8 for the Big 8 conference title. Reading is now 8-0. They beat up on Springport, who falls to 7-1, 50-14. This is the Rangers' second straight conference title. Now, again, we talk about bracketology. By the way, Western and South Lyon might meet in the
Oh,
first
very
round of the
easily
playoffs.
could.
That
That'd
could
be
happen
something.
very
Yep.
easy. So,
Yep.
that's something to look forward to if that gets happening. Anytime you play somebody, after just a couple of weeks, first round of the playoffs, anything goes. Rangers could get Cassopolis in the district championship game as they are also undefeated. Cassopolis won by 15 a year ago in the district finals. So we'll see what kind of we'll see what this Reading team is. But right now, undefeated.
Well, they've been playing exceptional defense. I think this is just the third game this season they've given up points, period. They've given up very few points. Reading's ground game eventually came on in this game. Another team that fell behind, and they ended up with 488 yards rushing, TDs from 4 different players. Ethan Lopresto had 222 yards, and it was kind of one of those where they finally pulled away, and you kind of figured. I think we all took Reading in this game too.
Except for John.
Well, but yeah, you mentioned second year in a row they've won the Big Eight. Second year they've gone undefeated. Now they get a crossover, which will be an interesting one against an undefeated Grass Lake team that won the Cascades. And
we talked about Grass Lake earlier this year. Yep.
So that'll be a fun one to watch. So some of those interesting non-conference matchups in Week 9, where we all love that.
You always have to raise the eyebrow when a team does the Barry Switzer half 100. I mean, they put up 50 points. I mean, that's the first thing I think of. I think of Barry Switzer and half 100. You're doing something right. You're living right.
You're living right. All right. Greater Thumb East was up for grabs this past weekend. Harbor Beach and Sandusky, both teams. One was undefeated and one was not. And now they're both 7-1. But Harbor Beach got it done. I believe I was the only one who took the beach. I think I'm right. I believe you guys all took Sandusky in this one.
Insider information.
I did. My buddy's the AD there, so I do know that. But they won 20-0. They're going to face a good Elkton Pigeon Bay Port team on Friday because the Lakers, the Elkton Pigeon Bay Port Lakers, are 7-1 also. Yeah. So they made the D7 regionals last year. Did Elkton Pigeon Bay? Harbor Beach was Division 8, lost by a point to Saginaw Nouveau. The latest Mapatology had the Beach and Nouveau meeting in the first round. We're going to talk more of that later. But again, first thing is win your division. The Greater Thumb East, Harbor Beach took care of business. Blanked them.
Yeah, Dylan Pfaff had 122 yards on 15 carries and 2 touchdowns. But I think just as impressive was the defense. They only allowed 102 rush yards, which was a season low for Sandusky. They've really been piling up the rushing yards, and it was the first shutout of the season for Harbor Beach.
Yeah. So it was good on them. And another team that I know we've had some of the fans reaching out to us telling us don't sleep on Port Huron Northern, on the Huskies, that this is a team that is, and again, that MAC Blue is a pretty good division. And the crossover games are always strong too.
They won their first MAC Blue.
Yeah, their first year up in the Blue.
Yep.
So they really ran the table in the division. Only loss was an 8-point defeat to Romeo.
Yeah.
So that's no joke. They might get, and this was a game against Roseville. They won 26-14. Roseville falls to 5-3, and Port Huron Northern now 7-1, 26-14 the final. They might get Roseville again to open the playoffs. That's kind of the way the bracketology was as after week 8. But no doubt, Port Huron Northern has got a lot to be proud of this season.
Well, a little bit like South Lyon, too, that played a lot of young kids last year. I think they had 10 sophomores up last year, and they were just short of the gold title. And now this year, those kids come back and have that much more experience. This is not a team that has an offense that, will light up the scoreboard. I think they're averaging just over 25 points a game. But the defense hasn't given up more than 2 touchdowns in a game all season.
And you're led by Brady McGregor coming off the edge. And then guys like Theo Ellis, their junior running back, who I think had about 130 and 2 touchdowns on the ground last week. And then their quarterback, Seth Klink, who, puts his opponents in the Hooskow.
All right. Port Huron Northern, a team that, has always got a good hockey program. Yep. And, they always compete in that very tough conference. And so we'll see what they do. Oak Park and West Bloomfield got together. Oak Park had their first defeat of the season, 27-21 in this white-red crossover.
I was there. It was a tale of two halves. West Bloomfield dominated the first half. We're up 21-0, and just really that was the best single half of football I've ever seen a Ron Bellamy team play. I mean, from the opening kickoff to when they went to the locker room at halftime, they were just really perfect. They did everything right. No penalties, precision in the passing game, precision in the running game, precision on defense.
What happened in the second
Then
half?
in the second half, Phil Stewart just went ham, as the youngsters say. Phil Stewart, the senior running back, again, kind of out of nowhere, wasn't a starter to begin the year. He was a backup. Toriano Richardson, who was the starting tailback, who has the college offers, got hurt, pulled a hamstring. Phil Stewart stepped in week 1 and hasn't given the job back.
Wally picked him, as the old folks say.
Yeah, and this kid is electric, and has no scholarship offers. He ran for 275 yards and 2 touchdowns against West Bloomfield, against a defense that is loaded with power conference prospects. He ran for 200 of those 275 in the second half. He had a 50-yard touchdown called back. He almost single-handedly brought them back and won that game. And I'm putting my hat in the ring for him to be on our watch list for Mr. Football. Really, to say he was an afterthought to start the season doesn't really even do it justice. I mean, this is someone that was a backup.
Yeah.
That has just taken advantage of every opportunity. And I look at him, and you want to talk about passing the eye test. I don't know what the situation is for some of the MAC schools in terms of their running back classes for the class of 2019. But this kid could not just participate at the Division I level, mid-major, but I think could be a star at a Toledo, at a Miami of Ohio. I mean, he's got.
How about Lawrence Tech?
Well, yeah. I mean, if B and he's got to go D3. But what I'm saying is
More like D2.
D2.
Is NAIA.
This is a kid that can easily play in the GLIAC, and
Very much so.
I really think that the MAC schools should be doing some due diligence and coming out and seeing this kid, because not only is he a shake and bake specialist and someone that can make you miss with his moves, he's got sprinter speed. I'm talking 4.4, 4.3 speed.
Well, well, let's ask Alan
Yeah.
when he comes up and see if he's hearing any noise.
Are Alan's even seen
Are
it.
we all a little bit guilty of overlooking the Lakers with all the 7-0 teams and 6-1 teams out there? Are we all maybe a little guilty? And that was kind of like their, oh yeah, remember us? We've had a lot of successes. I mean, would you liken it to something like that?
Well, they were. You can never look past West Bloomfield.
Sure.
When you got a roster like that, where you got literally a dozen guys that are going to play Division I college football, you got guys on defense that are all Americans, like Lance Dixon, Makari Page, Cornell Wheeler. But I don't think we're overlooking them. I think that the early loss to Clarkston.
Yes.
We're not going to talk about it later. You like West Bloomfield over Orchard Lake St. Mary's.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also want to state or talk about the fact that Lance Dixon, the All-American outside linebacker, got his first significant action at tailback because of an injury issue with Donovan Edwards. Right. Had gotten some had spot carries over the last couple weeks, but he really got the full load this week. Ran for 110, 2 touchdowns, had a touchdown called back.
Yeah. I was talking to Conley actually last night, who's the Southfield head coach, and he was saying it's about time they let that kid go.
I've been saying that. I was
saying
that last
good.
year. I was asking Ronnie Bellamy, when are you gonna let Lance Dixon run with the football?
Yeah.
You're talking 6'2", 215,
He's a
runs a
beast.
4.3.
Yeah.
And then he had the game-clinching first down after Oak Park really kicked themselves or shot themselves in the foot. They were going to get the ball back with 3 minutes left, down 6, and they had a roughing the punter call go against them.
Yeah.
Westwood got the ball back, and Lance Dixon closed it out. But this is a West Bloomfield team that maybe isn't getting, kind of playing on Sean's point, isn't getting the hype or the accolades that they were getting last year with the high-flying offense, with the quarterback throwing 3,000 yards or whatnot, and the 3 wide receivers that were all going to power conference.
Yep.
Now you have a team that's more defensive-oriented, more run-oriented, but they could be just
Trey Mosley's still out there.
Trey Mosley's still out there, and Trey Mosley playing his first,
Yeah.
he's playing his first game as a cornerback because of the injury issues. Returned a pick, took a pick 6 back off 75 yards.
Well, that's one where we've talked about this before too. As a high school coach, specifically as a high school coach, you get the ball in the hands of your best player, and especially with Donovan, Edwards hurt.
Yeah.
It makes all the sense in the world to get Lance Dixon as many carries, and obviously,
And
it's something he can do.
May
And
did a
Anthony
good
May
job,
was
too.
good. Yeah.
He ran for 75 yards. So
And on the other side, Oak Park now has Clarkston to end the year,
Yeah.
so very easily can be 7-2. But again, you kind of want to ramp it up as you get into the playoffs. I think they're going to learn a little bit about themselves. It was a valiant comeback. The fact that again with Phillip Stewart and 27-21 was the final in it. So we'll see how it shakes out. A lot of stuff going to still play itself out in Week 9 before we get into the postseason. We're going to take our first time out. We're going to come back. We're going to talk just kind of briefly about the Hungry Howie's Mr. Football race and the state champs Anvil Award. We're going to have Alan True on the other side of that, and then we'll come back and preview Week 9 and also talk about that Mallory state rankings. So a lot to get to. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
My passion is architecture. I don't want to sit around passively studying. I need to create. In our architecture studios at Lawrence Tech, we collaborate with students, faculty, and professionals from around the world. And from day one, we design using the same industry standard software that architecture firms use. I really feel like I'm designing my own future here. Lawrence Tech. Possible is everything.
I ordered 2 large Howie Mauis with butter cheese crust.
Wow, you are one serious breast cancer awareness supporter.
Warrior for love, hope, and pizza. Can't seem to reach my wallet.
Flavor fanatics love us because for every pizza sold in October, a portion goes to the National Breast Cancer Foundation. Now get a medium one-topping pizza for $1 when you buy a large one-topping pizza at regular menu price.
Hungry?
Welcome back to the State Champs Michigan High School Football Extra Point and Prediction Podcast. We've got the boys here. We just kind of went over what took place in Week 8. We want to get into our Hungry Howie's Mr. Football race and our State Champs Anvil Award. We've been saying this. I just want to let you guys know, and because the voting has really tightened up. Austin Brown is leading the vote right now in our Mr. Football race. As of Wednesday at 89-20, Jaron Mangum's in second. Sam Johnson has fallen to third with 6,400 votes. Duran McKinney at 58-71 is still in the running as well. So what does that mean? Well, that means if you win the online vote, you are the people's champ. You are automatically in our Final Four. You don't have to do anything else. You can just basically sit on the sidelines and I'll play the rest of the way. You're in there. No, we need you to play because we have to still pick a winner. But you're in there, and you have a 20% better chance to win the whole thing at the end. So that's what's happening there. The top 10 is going to freeze after week 1 of the playoffs. So you basically have one more week to get the vote. Voting will end Wednesday, November 21st at 12 p.m. So you just basically have a week and a half. You're going to have a week and a half following the state semifinals to vote to get your votes in, but our top 10 is freezing up. So Phil Stewart, you talk about want to get on a watch list. Basically, everybody's on a watch list right now. We've got one more week to make a decision and make a change, and it could happen next week. We will see. We'll kind of get together and
if Stewart breaks off
debate
another
it.
200 dandy against Clarkston,
Yeah.
it will be hard, in my opinion, to keep him off.
We're going to see Jaron Mangum and Daquan Finn this week. It is our main event on State Champs. Cass and Kane playing at Renaissance this year for the and I'll be actually filming that game for State Champs for the PSL title. So that'll be interesting. We'll see kind of where they're at.
Saw Jaron the other day.
Yeah? All right.
On Saturday.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay.
Future Colorado Buffalo.
Yep. Roderick Hurd is in our top 10. Duran McKinney. We talk about Duran and Jaron on the show this week on State Champs. River Rouge has got a big. They've got Southfield, I think.
Southfield.
Yeah,
Southfield.
Southfield this week. So that'll be interesting. Cam Martinez, obviously, we talk about is the front runner right now. There's just nothing you can say about that. Sam Johnson, I think he needs to have a good game this weekend. So we'll kind of see it. It's hard to drop someone from a top 10 when the people are out there wanting to keep him in. Again, it's not a determinative factor. He led the race for most of the year, but it still says something that people really believe in this kid. And that's why he's still in our top 10. Austin Brown is our leading vote getter as of right now, the Madison quarterback. Obviously had a phenomenal year. Isaac Van Dyke at Holland West Ottawa, I'll have to kind of get an update and see on how he has performed the last couple of weeks. But no doubt, a solid guy. He needs to be in our top 10. I'm sure he's throwing for a ton.
I don't remember if it was this past week or the week before. Three in the air, 2 on the ground. I think, but it's just
That's
kind
solid.
of that. That's like, oh yeah, that's an Isaac kid.
It's a ho-hum day for him.
At this point,
once you've done it so many times, it's like, oh yeah.
Sincere Dent got dinged up. We'll see if he'll be back in the lineup this weekend. And then Stevie Wonderwalker, we talked about what he's done. It's been phenomenal.
600 yards the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, in fact,
it's insane. It really is. It's crazy.
Their coach has been DMing me all his stats and all this, so they're all on the Wonder. But he's only got one vote though so far. So we need to get people out there voting.
You
for
guys
Stevie
change
Walker.
that
Exactly. So in the Anvil Award, we've had our top 10, and it is what it is. This is our top 10 for the year. It will be interesting when we have to get together and pick a Final Four in this one. But, again, we're going to really pay close attention to the playoffs and how these teams do and what kind of numbers they put up, whether they're defensively doing great or offense. So many of these guys play both ways.
Yep.
So is Lance Dixon a running back now?
Yeah, exactly. Should he be in the Mr. Football race? But Lance is in our Anvil.
Yeah.
And again, we said the same thing about Marcel Lewis. Has done so much on the offense.
A lot of these Anvil Award guys are playing both ways.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've talked about this before, but Justin Rogers, the 6'4", 325-pound offensive lineman, the 5-star recruit. I was with a scout. Or there was a scout from another school at the West Bloomfield Oak Park game, and he said, "Where on defense?" He says, "Where's Rogers?" Thinking that he was in a down stance. I said, "He's standing up. He's playing middle linebacker."
I know, it's insanity. Our only junior in our Anvil Award right now. But again, so much talent, and again, we talked about Muskegon earlier and what Cam's doing and being the front runner, and said Anthony Bradford.
Large reason for
is
that.
a big reason for that. So, again, so much talent on this. We'll see how that shakes out. So, but go to the Anvil Award. I want you guys to go there. I want you to vote. I was having a hard time yesterday actually pulling it up. But I'm going to do it now.
I think something like
and see where our
8 of these 10
are.
play both ways.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. There it is. What these guys have been able to do. But I want to pull up where our results are right now. And that's okay that we do this live because, we're here to
and a handful of these guys
entertain.
are multi-sport guys, too, that are stars on the basketball floor.
Or baseball.
Or in the case of Adam Berghorst, he's chucking that pill from the mound, and we'll be doing both gridiron duty and diamond duty when he gets up to Michigan State.
So right now, Lance Dixon is the leading the vote, 6,060, again, as of Wednesday at 11:30 in the morning. Rook or Horhoro from River Rouge is in second, and it's really those two when it comes to the vote. Justin Rogers is closing in on 500, but other than that, just a sampling, smattering of votes for the other guys. And again, you can change that, but the top 10 is the top 10, so we've got through the semifinals to make that happen. Again, the winner of the vote is going to be in there and is going to we are really hoping that the presentation of this award is at a special event. And that's kind of where we're doing it now. We haven't confirmed it yet, so I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag yet. But yes,
a good tease.
Yes and no. It could be at a live event.
He teased it a little bit last.
It could be at a live
week, too.
television event even more. So, I'm even giving more, kind of things. So, anyway, that is what the deal is with those awards. We want you to go to statechampsnetwork.com, and we want you to vote. We want you to vote often. I do want to also bring up the point that, by the way, Alan True is going to be coming up next with our Michigan Student Aid Recruit Report, and Matt Mowry is going to talk to us about his rankings updates. One other thing I wanted to mention, and it's funny that it's simply slipped my mind, that I wanted to have you guys weigh in on, and I can't for the life of me remember. It'll come back to me in a little bit, but okay. So yeah, it's completely
Okay,
lost
that's
my mind,
fine.
but that's the way my mind works later. Yeah, good talk. So we're gonna take a timeout, and when we come back, we're gonna talk to Alan True, and again get a rankings update. We're gonna preview our Week 9 of the football season. There are several big games. I'll tell you what's coming up on State Champs, and then some other games of interest before we wrap up the show and make some predictions and do it that way. So, all right, so stick with us. We'll be right back.
I want to be a dermatologist, and though a lot of universities tried to recruit me for basketball, Lawrence Tech had the science curriculum that I wanted. LTU's Southfield campus is a great place to learn, and the classes are small enough that I don't have to wait for office hours to talk to my professors. They're usually right by my side, challenging me and guiding me toward a successful future. Lawrence Tech. Possible is everything.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's, Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for one medium pizza at participating locations.
Hungry Howie's makes it easy. It's just a little mini pizza box, but we make lots of money, lots of dough.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
Today we take you inside one of our favorite days of the year, Selection Sunday. The day begins with the MHSA staff completing the process of gathering the Week 9 scores and computing the report with the potential qualifiers. From there, teams are placed on maps by divisions and are grouped into districts and regions under the watchful eye of representatives of the Football Coaches Association. Once the final reports are generated, they are transported to Fox Sports Detroit, where the announcers and producers begin preparations for the show to reveal the pairings to teams and fans at watch parties across the state. You can watch the Selection Sunday show on Fox Sports Detroit and visit our website when the show is over to check out all the pairings for this year's football playoffs.
All right, welcome back to the State Champs Michigan High School Football Extra Point and Prediction Podcast. Alan True is joining us now, as you see him there on the screen for the Michigan Student Aid Recruit Report. What's up, Alan?
Hey, guys. Not too much. Same old football, raising kids. That's my life.
Yeah, that is well.
One-two
It's
punch
not a
of
bad
Alan
life.
True.
Yes,
not a bad thing, my friend.
Yeah.
And Matt Maury.
That's right. Matt's in the same boat you are, little ones. All right, so let's get into the recruit report and talk about what's happening right now. Again, when you set your list, it's like, all right, we haven't had a chance to talk about John Glenn very often. And guys, there, Dante Barwell. What's up with him?
Yeah, I wanted to bring him up because he's had a good season, had a good game against Belleville a few weeks ago. Again, the Belleville coaches were actually ones that kind of said, hey, this kid from John Glenn had a pretty good game against us. Picked up an offer from Morgan State in the summer after he camped there. Just visited Grand Valley. But there's some other FCS schools that are beginning to show some interest. He's a kid that can play tailback. He's played some corner. Some schools like him as that nickel position that a lot of defenses play now, that kind of hybrid, can cover a slot, can play in the box guy. So a good-sized kid with some ability and a guy who's starting to pick up some recruiting traction here.
Cool. Obviously, big game this week between Cass Tech and King. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of scouts and a ton of eyeballs on that because this is an opportunity to see both those teams actually play equal competition. Jalen Graham, what's up?
Well, he said that he's going to announce a decision pretty soon here. So towards the end of this week, I would imagine after that game at some point, maybe over the weekend, he's going to make his decision public. He's supposed to be visiting Iowa State over the weekend, so they're definitely one of the schools that's in the final mix. He has a visit set for Purdue for, I think, maybe next week or the week after. So it's Iowa State, Purdue, and Minnesota are the three. I really think it's between Iowa State and Purdue. Purdue's been a long-time prediction of mine on our 24/7 Sports Crystal Ball, and I'm gonna ride it out here. So I'm sticking with Purdue, but the fact that he's supposed to visit Iowa State this weekend makes me a little bit nervous on that. And wherever he goes, I think he's going to end up playing safety, even though he's a quarterback right now at Cass Tech as well.
Why were you so sold on Purdue for his choice?
They've been recruiting him for a long time. Okay. Some schools, I think, have kind of come and gone with him. I think he was waiting for Michigan State. He visited a few weeks ago, and they didn't end up offering him. And I think Purdue's just been a consistent factor there. Purdue has also done a really nice job in recruiting the state. They have Marvin Grant committed, who he's going to be playing against this weekend.
Yeah.
So for an outside school to come up and consistently do well in Michigan, they've gotten some West Bloomfield kids in the past. I think they've recruited them really hard and made them a priority.
Nice. Brock Jordan out of Okemos.
Yeah, a kid that we saw a lot in the offseason, and every time I saw him and some of the Rising Stars guys where he trained, everybody, the consensus was, why doesn't this kid have more interest? Why doesn't he have more offers? And part of it is that he's a center, and it's just hard sometimes. Schools love to go after these 6'7" tackle bodies.
Yeah.
And the centers and the guards sometimes are the last to get offered. Well, it's starting to happen for him. Last night he picked up his first Division I offer from Eastern Michigan, first FBS offer, I should say. So that's a big one for him. Duquesne came in behind them with an offer. I would think that he had some preferred walk-on opportunities, but now that he has that Eastern Michigan offer, I think some other MAC schools will jump in. So in a time where recruiting moves earlier, good to see a senior kid pick up an offer at that level, most of the way through his senior year.
And then Tommy Gaihardo out of Dearborn.
Yeah, Tommy's been recruited. He's been on the radar for, it seems like, well over a year now. He's going to visit Michigan State this weekend. I brought him up partially because I also wanted to say how many in-state kids are going to be in East Lansing on Saturday for that big Michigan State game. A lot of kids are going to be up there. You look at the list, and it's a who's who of the best recruits in the state of Michigan. So Tommy's going up there. He caught Michigan State's eye at their camp and their 7-on-7 tournament over the summer. I was there, had a chance to see him. He was a wide receiver last year, still plays wide receiver now, but he's 6'4", 230 pounds. So the possibilities are many for what he could be. He could be a tight end, maybe still plays big receiver. Some schools like him as a linebacker. Some schools think he might be a defensive end. You just have a big athletic kid with a lot of ability. So he's got a handful of MAC offers, but like I said, Michigan State, Northwestern, some Big Ten schools are also giving him a close look.
We've got a couple wild cards for you. We just want to kind of throw it out there to you. One was a player that we talked about on the show this week, and we're surprised that we haven't really heard any recruiting noise around him, and that is Philip Stewart, the running back at Oak Park. He had an amazing game this past weekend.
And he was good really almost throughout the season. You know, he came out strong in that prep kickoff classic. I think part of it just was, he didn't even go into the season as the known quantity in that backfield. It was Toriano Richardson.
Right.
So schools just haven't known about him. But I will say this, it's not as I talk to schools around the Midwest, they view it as not a very good running back year in these parts, not just in Michigan, I'm saying in the entire Midwest.
Right.
So there's room for a kid like Philip to pick up some offers here. And I think some schools are looking. It's just taken longer because he wasn't a known quantity going into the season, wasn't a guy who popped up at a ton of camps. Like I said, wasn't even a guy who you came into the season maybe even pegged as the starter there, and all of a sudden he's exploded. So I think schools are scrambling a little bit to find out more about this guy. He's going to end up somewhere. There's no doubt about it.
Right, for sure.
I said that using the term afterthought was kind of a understatement because he wasn't even really on the depth chart going into the season, and then Toriano Richardson pulls a hamstring, and the next thing you know, Phil Stewart's the starter, and he hasn't given the job back since week one.
And you can't. And it's to no fault of Toriano's either. I mean, Philip is just playing that well. He's had just such a good season. And just looking at him, he's not maybe the ideal sized guy, but he's got enough quickness, elusiveness, a lot of skills there to be able to play at the next level.
Richardson more looks the part. You look at Philip Stewart, he's like 5'7", $150.
They had a running back there at Oak Park not too long ago that
who's Toriano Richardson's brother, Johnny Kelly, the machine gun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's obviously had
doing pretty well. He's in the pros right now.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Scott,
there were a lot of
the
questions about him too, size-wise.
Yeah.
So, Alan, I'm wondering about why there isn't really any recruiting buzz around Anthony Bradford's line mate at Muskegon, Marquise Cooper, who has that kind of same size, but I see that he only has maybe 1 or 2 offers. I don't think they're Division I.
Yeah, he's got Alabama A&M, and I think maybe Davenport or one of the GLIAC schools. I think part of that, we just talked about Broderick Jordan just being a 6'2" interior offensive lineman. Sometimes it takes them a little bit longer to find their way to him. Even with Bradford, it took a while for him to get going. I think part of that is in running that veer offense. It's a lot of straight run blocking. The question about Anthony Bradford was, can this guy pass set? Because it's so much running at Muskegon. And I think Marquise has some of the same questions to answer, and then he's an interior guy on top of that. I just saw them play Mona Shores, though, and you focus on Bradford, but that entire line, every kid on that line, I think, can play college football. And in my opinion, Marquise, after Bradford, he's the next one. He's the next best of the group, other than a junior maybe that they have. So he'll probably play FCS or GLIAC ball. I don't think it's entirely impossible that a MAC school would come through and give him an offer. But to answer your question, I think that's why, just being an inside guy, like we said with Jordan, sometimes it's harder to be recruited. Schools will take their chances on converting over a 6'6" tight end before they'll take a 6'2" inside guy sometimes.
Interesting. Just for fun, as we wind it up here, who would you say is the one team this season that is going to have more recruits come out of this squad, even if we include maybe some of the younger players, than anybody else? Is it Muskegon?
I think it's Belleville still.
Okay.
Especially if you include all classes.
Yeah.
Because they have freshmen and sophomores that they have into the double digits probably in those classes. So some schools are loaded at the top junior, senior classes. Belleville has high Division I recruits in every single class. They even have 8th graders, I think, that are getting recruited.
I know Damon Payne is a sophomore offensive lineman that's already considered a 4-star.
Yeah, really, really good player there. Andre Seldon's younger brother is a freshman that starts at safety. He's going to be a big-time recruit named Miles Rouser. They've got a receiver, a freshman receiver that's playing a lot named Christian Rapely that they talked. He was a somebody. He's a 7th grader, and they said back then this is the next Peoples Jones, and he's playing receiver as a freshman on a team that really doesn't need to play a freshman at receiver if they didn't need to. He's just that good.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, we'll see how that translates into wins in the playoffs for Belleville. This will be a big one. We'll see. We'll see. He is Alan True. This has been the Michigan Student Aid Recruit Report. You can watch Alan's reports on our television shows, both State Champs Michigan and Indiana. We appreciate everything you do and giving us time here. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, AT.
So we thank Alan for doing that, of course, each and every week. And this is also an opportunity now where we can talk to Matt Mowry about his rankings and what changed after Week 8.
Anything changed?
I don't know. Did it?
Is there a little bit of a change?
I have not had the opportunity to really examine them yet, so you're just going to be enlightening me as we do this.
Well, kind of like the week before, we had quite a few movement in the middle of, kind of the back end of the top 10. We had Oak Park lose to West Bloomfield. We had De La Salle lose to CC on Sunday. We had Mona Shores lose to Muskegon. And then we had Walled Lake Western and Macomb, Dakota, and Harrison all in the teens and 20s kind of drop out. But the biggest change, obviously, was at the top. And we talked about this last week, what the rationale kind of was for keeping Cass Tech there. And again, this wasn't something that, Cass Tech did to drop out. Muskegon's strength of schedule is
phenomenal.
There is no comparison.
Exactly.
And
it's unrivaled.
They have dominated for the most part that schedule.
Yes.
And this looked to be another one of those, maybe here's the team that can knock them off. And Mona Shores played with them for the better part of 3 quarters, but still ended up being a 20-point game.
Exactly. They put 55 points up.
Yeah, and just all of the rushing stats, and Cam Martinez breaking modern day records at a program that has the most wins in the state.
Nice.
He's not doing this at a program that started 5 minutes ago.
No. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, so
Muskegon's our new number one, and I'm comfortable with that.
Absolutely. If there was a time to jump Muskegon over a team coming off a win, this was it, because they have that. You look at who they've beaten in the top 10 still, and in the top 25, and it's it's impressive.
We're going to see where Cass Tech and King kind of are playing as we get ready for the postseason. Because for them, it always is. Those two get together this week. We're going to talk about it in just a little bit. But, right now, Muskegon, with their schedule and what they've done, they deserve definitely the top spot as of right now. And again, in the end, it's not going to change anyone's lives. Nope. Is there maybe a bulletin board, digital bulletin board that can be in the Cass Tech locker room? Whatever. But again, shows you, though, there's been a lot of thought. We've talked about this, and, this is just kind of where we're at now. What else?
And unfortunately, we'll never get to see that clash
Game.
of
That
superpowers
game.
because
Right.
one's
Yep.
playing
Yep.
D1 and one's playing
I know.
D3.
Yeah, we could conceivably, if things shake out how they may with bracketology, we could see King and Muskegon in the same bracket,
Right.
but they've already played, and we kind of know how that turned out. It certainly would be great to see a rematch, and we don't know how the transitive property really works in high school football, so we're saying if Cass Tech beats King, is what that does for them, but. Yeah, it would be wonderful if we could hook it up on the field and see a Cass Tech Muskegon to battle it out on the field. We're probably not going to see that, but yeah, and it's
Just got to schedule it in the future. Got to
Right,
make it happen.
right.
Maybe here at the Lawrence Tech PKC Classic or something of that. Yeah, we could do that. So what else? Anything else striking?
Not anything else real striking. We just had some teams that have been on kind of winning streaks that have kind of percolated up to the top as other teams have lost.
What new members do you have?
We have a couple of new members at the bottom.
Yeah.
We bumped in a couple of teams that lost and took some tough losses and kind of dropped the normal amount.
Yep.
We moved Dearborn, Fortson, and Davison back into the rankings at 23 and 24.
They'll be happy.
And then I fudged a little bit at 25 because I was going to move Birmingham Groves in, but they're playing a Birmingham Seahome team, kind of the crosstown rivalry game, and they both have very good records. Seahome's only losses to an undefeated South Lyon team.
Yep.
Groves' only loss were to start the season to West Bloomfield and to Oak Park, and then have been undefeated since then. So it was kind of I kind of did the coin flip and left it right on the edge and put them both in at co-25s.
Yeah.
And then we had some teams that dropped out. Wall Lake Western dropped out after a third loss.
Yeah.
Macomb Dakota dropped out after a second loss in division, and Farmington Hills Harrison dropped out after a third loss. And
Right. Again, yeah, great stuff. Go to statechampsnetwork.com. He's got capsules on his reasonings for where everybody's kind of slotted. And I guess after this weekend, we'll have our final regular season rankings. How do you plan to do through playoffs? Are you going to do it, or we're done with them once we have our 25 after the regular? Or are you going to?
We can keep them going.
Okay.
These are the top teams that are remaining. We
Okay.
could probably do that.
Do
And then
something
you'll have a
fun.
lot of those teams that we've had in the teams to watch. Some of the teams from the lower divisions.
Yeah.
The Grand Rapids Catholic Centrals,
Yes.
Coamo Westphalias, Ithacas, those kind of teams.
Yes.
They can pop into the rankings too because the argument always is what would happen if they played a Class A team or a B teams.
Of course.
But that kind of goes away when you only have a certain number of teams left, and those are some of the best teams still standing. Jackson, Lumen Christi, those kind of teams that are going to make long runs.
yeah.
So we could see some of those pop in, and that'll be fun just for argument's sake
Absolutely.
to have them in the top 25. So I have no problem with keeping it going.
We keep it fresh. We do things that other people aren't doing. And we
We're
know
ahead of
that
the curve.
We are, and we know that people get a kick out of it and dig it. The true high school fans, because again, it can debate controversy and conversation and all of that.
It was going for a while on Twitter on Monday after they got posted between the kind of the people in different camps, and that's fun to watch.
It's great, and again, a lot going to be determined this week, and we're going to talk about the big Week 9 matchups, the games you'll be able to see on State Champs, and some others coming up as we're going to wrap up the podcast after this timeout.
My passion is architecture. I don't want to sit around passively studying. I need to create. In our architecture studios at Lawrence Tech, we collaborate with students, faculty, and professionals from around the world. And from day one, we design using the same industry standard software that architecture firms use. I really feel like I'm designing my own future here. Lawrence Tech. Possible is everything.
I ordered 2 large Howie Mauis with butter cheese crust.
Wow, you are one serious breast cancer awareness supporter.
Warrior for love, hope, and pizza. Can't seem to reach my wallet.
Flavor fanatics love us because for every pizza sold in October, a portion goes to the National Breast Cancer Foundation. Now get a medium one-topping pizza for $1 when you buy a large one-topping pizza at regular menu price.
Hungry?
Howie's!
All right, everybody, welcome back. This is the final segment of the State Champs Michigan High School Football Extra Point and Prediction Podcast. Some would call it the most fun segment. the best segment. It's always the best for last.
To the prediction aspect of the prediction podcast.
Yes, exactly. And it's also fun to talk about matchups that are going to be happening this weekend and the implications with that. We might even tack in some bracketology to where kind of things at, where some of these teams may play, because they may play this weekend, they might play next week. That happens quite often. Hello, downriver. But let's get into the games that you're going to be able to watch on State Champs. These were the games that we'll be featuring this week. And again, we always try to kind of get teams we haven't had on as much, interesting matchups, teams from other areas that we can get on the show, and that is really the way we represent what we do. Obviously, the big game is the main event, is the PSL championship, and Detroit King, Detroit Cass Tech 8-0, King 7-1. We can start right there. I feel this is every year is amazing, and there's been years where you've had, gosh, remember the one year wasn't long ago, like 5 players had to sit out because of a fight or something that happened in the week before, and yet it was
Detroit,
King.
That was King Cass.
It was King Cass.
Right.
But
I think it had happened at King East English Village.
Correct.
Game,
but then King Cass came in and all those players were out,
Yeah.
and yet King went on to win that game.
Yeah.
So always great storylines that go with it. And again, if you love recruiting, if you love prospects, this is the game you want to go see, because on the field, you're going to literally have 25 to 35 college players competing in a high school environment.
How good is King? Okay, we were just talking about Muskegon being number 1, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Muskegon beat them 24-21. I mean,
yeah.
Come on now. I mean, that's how good. This
is
one of those things that always makes me laugh. When people do this is Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. So what?
And if Muskegon's Cam Martinez is the front runner in the clubhouse right now for Mr. Football, Daquan Finn is 1B.
Yeah.
Yep.
Looking on his coattail a little bit.
Yeah. This will be very interesting. 2 teams that have, similar styles. Obviously, they what they both can do on the defensive end is ridiculous. What do you think are going to be some of the X factors that are going to be the difference in this one?
I think Marvin Grant, the superstar safety for Detroit King, being the quarterback of that back end, dictating tempo in the secondary, and really keeping Jalen Graham, or trying to keep Jalen Graham and that pass attack at bay, because you kind of know what you got when you're talking about Cass Tech in the running game, and that Thunder and Lightning, Lou Nichols and Jaron Mangum. But I think if Cass Tech's going to win this game, they're going to have to do it, some of it at least, through the air.
Right.
And the equalizer on the other end is Marvin Grant.
And that'll be the test. And that's kind of what we talked about with Muskegon early on in the season, as they were so dominant. They were rolling over people. Well, Cass has done a lot the same thing, and they kind of have a 3-headed running back monster, because I saw him play the other day in the PSL semifinals, and Jordan Lowe was actually the guy who was blowing up and ripping off 50-yard runs. Mm-hmm. So they've got depth as well as talent in that backfield. But again, if King can bottle up that running game, and it's going to force them to do something they haven't had to do, they've done it when they wanted to, but it's not out of necessity that they've had to pass a whole lot this year. So that's going to be the test. How much are they going to be able to do?
And then King also has Ahmad Gardner, the Cincinnati commit, at a cornerback, and he's really someone that gets lost in the shuffle when you're talking about the great players in the PSL right now. He's going to Cincinnati, and he's a lockdown corner.
Technicians are destroying people, but how much have they been tested? Really?
I mean,
that's an honest question, because again, taking nothing away from them, but when you look at their body of work the last few weeks, when's the last time they've really been tested?
Ohio. They went down there and had Hail Mary is what decided it, because the week before River Rouge gave him a run. But again, and what River Rouge tried to do was take away a lot of what was coming at him from the line of scrimmage. Little bubble screens. If you get Mangum out on the flat, Nichols out on the flat, you can get them little quick passes, and then you just let the athletes go to work. That's going to be but you're right. I mean, they really haven't been in a ball game since then, and that's a long time. King has had, a little bit, a little harder schedule, and especially having to go to Muskegon.
For so long, and I even asked Thomas Wilcher about that. I said, the kids have been anticipating it. And he just kind of smiled and said, we all have. Because, King beat him in the semis last year, and it was the first time in forever it wasn't a King Cass final.
Right.
It always has been. And so that was the
East
first time
English
they'd been
slipped
out.
in
Right.
a couple times, but so this will be great. I'm looking forward to it. And again, being at Renaissance, we're not in Ford Field anymore. So the elements are going to play a factor. We'll see if we get any wet weather or anything that goes on Friday. They're saying there could be some late. It's going to be chilly, so we'll see what happens. We'll make our predictions later in the show. So other games that we're going to have on, Ishpeming, Westwood, and Negaunee are getting together. So we partnered with our friends in the UP to make sure we can get this game. And Ishpeming Westwood comes in 6-2, Negaunee 5-3, trying to get in.
Well, this is the battle's kind of for second and third in the West Pac A behind Calumet, which is
Copper Kings.
still the Copper Kings are still leading. Westwood could share the title if they get a win here and the Copper Kings lose to Lance. It's probably not as likely as a scenario, but they're still in play for that. And Iron Mountain is currently tied for third with Negaunee at 4-2. So there's kind of a pack of teams that's really separated itself at the top, but. It's kind of an interesting run for the Patriots, who've run off 4 straight wins since losing back-to-back weeks to Calumet and rival Ishpeming. 4 wins, but they might be rusty because they haven't played a lot. 2 of those wins were by forfeit. That's odd to see that in. A lot of times you have retroactive forfeits after the season, but to see 2 of them on the field in a 4-week span, you got to wonder if, whether or not they're rusty a little bit or how they've been kind of, keeping themselves sharp. And the Miners have won 3 straight since the 2-3 start. So it's kind of 2 teams that are kind of both on a little bit of a run here.
A team that I had an opportunity to see earlier this season is playing in the Division II championship in the PSL, and that is Detroit Cody. They will be taking on Denby. Cody lost to Mumford. Mumford came all the way back and won that game in the game that I saw. They got their revenge last week in defeating Mumford 20-14, but now they will take on a Cody team in the championship. That again, these are the ones that people don't talk about a lot of times, but and a lot of times you'll have, again, the Division II ones that I've always seemed to see. They're great games, but nobody can get in the end zone. They make great plays between the fives. It's like there's great. There's interceptions, there's runbacks, and somebody's tackled right at the 5, and then they can't get in the end zone. But Cody coming off a 46-24 win of Osborne, and only lost to King 27-18.
Yeah. That's what two losses for the Tars? It's King and Renaissance, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a pretty good team.
Well, and might not be a problem finding somebody to get into the end zone because I saw Cody play Denby play Osborne over the weekend in the PSL semifinals, and Tashawn Wilkes ran for 168 yards and 5 touchdowns, and probably could have had a couple more if they kept feeding him the ball in the second half. That wasn't a whole lot of carries. He was breaking off some pretty big runs, and he's one of those kids that we talk about all of the high-level talent that Cass and King have, and they do. But he's one of those second-tier talent guys in the PSL that kind of gets overlooked until all of a sudden you see him pop up on a college roster and you go, oh, yeah, I remember him.
So we'll see. I'm trying to figure out where I know Cody's looks like it's slated for D4 for playoffs. So because I was trying to see where they might end up. They might actually end up in a district with Cranbrook and then Country and Centerline on the other side, if that's the way it should play out again. Snooze to You is the website, which you can check out, snooze2u.com, and kind of see where they're going. Because, again, populations in the PSL, it's determined last year, but, they sometimes they drop, and so we don't see where those guys end up. But we'll have that game. Johnny Kidd will be shooting that game, so we'll have that one on State Champs. Ovid LC and Richmond. Richmond, again, a great tradition at football. We know, those of you who follow State Champs, we know Richmond is a wrestling superpower, and every year I've got to do a show one year on Richmond and Dundee and the rivalry that they have, because they literally meet pretty much every single year for the championship in wrestling, team wrestling. And one wins one year and the other will win the other year, and it's been wild. But as a football program, they are very, very good. But Ovid LC is already in the playoffs, coming to Richmond this one. And again, a story I did not know. about their program and what they're dealing with.
Yeah, and the Marauders are in the new Mid-Michigan Activities Conference. They've been one of those teams that have kind of bounced around in Mid-Michigan from conference to conference, and that's a conference that, by and large, made up of Shiawassee County teams, and to kind of keep the travel local. And they're second place behind top-ranked New Lothrop that we've talked about quite a few times. Only lost to them by 18 points. The only other loss they had on the season was to an undefeated Portland team. They lost 18-0 in week 1. The same team they lost to in the playoffs last year. They're kind of hurting as a program and as a community, and those are two really small communities that are very close-knit. Right before the New Lothrop game, Carson Vincent, a kid who'd played football and ran track, committed suicide. He'd been playing at Mid-Michigan Community College. He was planning on playing basketball there, and that's one of those. Funeral was in the high school gym because they knew that everybody was going to show up. And it was the funeral was the day of the New Lothrop game, and again they came out in emotional, and ended up losing by 18 points to a very, very, very good team.
Yeah,
and that's as close as anybody's gotten to New Lothrop all season long. And since then they've been 3-0. So that's one of those where they're going to kind of harness that emotion as much as they possibly can the rest of the way.
Ovid Elsie has one of the best kickers in the state, and Evan Morris committed to Michigan State. And he's someone that, if you read all the kicking websites, they rank him as the top kickoff specialist in America. So
Richmond unbeaten at home, too. Something to keep an eye on. 2-3 on the road. They're getting it done at home.
They're going to need this. They're not going to have the playoff points to get in at 5-4, so they're going to need this win for sure. They got beat up by a really good Almont team. Almont's a team we don't really talk about, but they're a program that has been really blossoming over the last few years. Got blanked by North Branch, who is good this year too.
Long time, yeah.
So this will be an interesting game, and I think everything on the line.
6 straight playoff appearances on the line. That streak they want to continue.
Big. This is big, and we'll have it on State Champs. So remember, State Champs airs every Sunday at 9 a.m. on Fox Sports Detroit. It also airs on Comcast Channel 900. So if you're a Comcast subscriber, we throw it on there, and it kind of covers most of the Lower Peninsula. All Comcast subscribers have it. It's usually pretty high up on the HD channel flip. So you can watch it there, and then all our programming gets picked up on Fox College Sports Atlantic, which is cool because I get sometimes correspondence from people out in Boston or Florida or Maryland or something like that, and but hey, they want to put our show on there, we're down with it, so it's all good. South Lyon East, we kind of just hinted that to that matchup that's coming up. South Lyon East needs a win to get in. They may have enough playoff points in the end, but it's going to be close. Okay.
Of the 5-3 teams.
Okay.
So they're right on that line where you're like, they're not dependent on
South Lyon would want nothing more than to just,
stick the dagger in.
I didn't want to use such a
Cougs' 3 losses too are all small points. I mean, it's what, 4-3-7. I mean, the Cougs are a pretty good team.
17 total points to Walled Lake Western, Lakeland, and Traverse City Central.
They are
all,
good.
Probably playoff bound.
Yes, for sure.
They had Walled Lake Western on the ropes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's I'm sure East is probably like, oh great, the one year that we are now doing, South Lyon's been kind of an afterthought for the last few years. They come in and they're undefeated, so they definitely feel like little brother in this particular scenario.
Well, and they hadn't beaten South Lyon in the rivalry since the schools split until last year. Even the year that East made the playoffs, they lost to South Lyon about as close as you possibly could. It was 6-3. And there have been some lopsided. I mean, when you start a new program, you're going to have some lopsided losses, especially when you have a rivalry. It was 67-18 and 39-0, 40-0. It's gotten, that gap has gotten a lot, closer over the last couple of years. And South Lyon East was really rolling until really a couple weeks ago when their quarterback, Chris Kaminsky, got hurt. So they've had
is he back?
I don't know. It was a shoulder, so I'm betting probably not, but I honestly don't know. They had a sophomore, Aiden Oliver, in there who played against Walled Lake Western, and really they kind of had a very simplified package for him. And then last week they played Milford, so it's kind of hard to tell. What exactly I think they scored 36 points, but Milford is winless, so exactly. So that's not really all that it's not a good predictor.
No, it's not. So yeah, we'll see. This will be at South Lynese, a beautiful stadium. It's just a great spot, and it'll be a really fun game. Everybody from South Lyon will be out there, and state champs will too. So, a team that most likely will get in with a 5-4 is Grand Blanc. I mean, they're pretty much a lock.
They're sixth most playoff.
They've got Celine coming to town. We haven't seen Celine this season on state champs, so we wanted to. You saw. We haven't, meaning the television side of things. But yes, Matt Mowry has seen it. Week 1, right? Week 2. Okay. Yep. So we wanted to make sure, this again a quiet 7-1 by the Hornets.
Well, 7 straight wins, right?
Yeah, since they had Chip Valley on the ropes, and then their quarterback got hurt, and then it was kind of and Chip Valley ended up roaring back to win that, and I think Marcel Lewis had a big catch in that game.
That's when Schuster really set himself as
that's when it really kind of became apparent that Chip Valley had something special. Like you said, they've just roared back ever since then. Their defense has been just stingy. 26 points. In 5 league games they allowed 36 points. 26 of them were to Temperance Bedford. They've allowed 83 on the season, so you take out Temperance Bedford and the first week against Chip Valley, and they basically haven't given up any points this year. I mean, it's a very, very stingy defense that had a lot of experience, and they kind of had to ride the storm while, Andrew Arbaugh was kind of getting back, and they tried some different things. They had MJ Griffin that we talked about early in the season, running some Wildcat, and, they've got Brendan Monday, who's a good
running back.
Good running back. This was a really, really good, intriguing matchup about week 4 when Grand Blanc was unbeaten and Celine was 3-1, and it looked really good. Grand Blanc has kind of since fallen back to the pack a little bit in their first go-through in the Saginaw Valley League South, and they've taken some. They lost to Lapeer and Davison, so that's no harm in that.
No doubt.
And then Flint Powers was one of those toss-up games last
They're
week.
getting better.
They're getting better.
They're getting a lot better. And being at home, Grand Blanc wants this one.
Yep.
They won in.
They won in. They won in with 6. They don't want to go in 5-4. We'll see. Again, I like what Celine is doing. Bracketology has them kind of maybe taking on Woodhaven in a District 2 matchup in Region 3, but then taking on the winner of Belleville Monroe, which Monroe's had a really good year this year. They beat Bedford, who was a good team, but we all expect Belleville to do what they're going to do. But Belleville Celine in a district final could be a really interesting and fun matchup.
Absolutely.
And then the
Lake
winner.
Orient's got to play Monroe this week to get in. If they,
So again, this is the way things could play out, but we'll see. Speaking of Belleville, KLAA title on the line. We are going to cover
rematch of an instant classic.
Brighton and Belleville, absolutely. Brighton, another team, 7-1. They've got 1 loss, and that was to Belleville, and it was in the last 10 seconds. So they want nothing more, the Bulldogs, to show that they are not just a hockey school. But
they were up multiple scores in that game. Belleville had to rally late.
12 seconds left, I think.
Yeah, Jalen Williams caught the game winner
40-35 final. And you know what? It's funny that you mentioned the hockey school thing.
Yeah.
Brighton football, to me, is like the hockey team right now in the regard that they're just flying under the radar.
Totally.
They're just totally flying under. Nobody's talking about them, and then you're like, Brighton's doing it again.
I went out to a practice in August, and I'm talking to the coaching staff, and they're just like, we should be all right. We'll be around. We'll be hovering around 500. We'll probably, if we're lucky, we'll be 6-3.
Well, it was so hard to tell with them because they were coming off a season in which they missed the playoffs last year, and they had 4 or 5 losses were by a total of 8 points.
Yeah.
One by...
Including Grand Blanc, 1 point final game
2 by
of the
1
year.
point, 2 by 3 points, and then they kind of got blown out by Canton in the one other loss.
Yeah.
Part of that was a guy who showed up all year long and kind of really reared his head in the recruiting circles in that week 1 loss to Belleville. Will Johns, who was their quarterback, big, strong kid.
Those coaches didn't say one word to me about Will Johns. They only wanted to talk about their linemen, which they have a real nice line for on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
But I was like, you could have given me the heads up on this kid. This kid's a diamond in the rough.
He's coming off an AC joint injury, which was why he missed I saw him Friday against Howell in kind of the rivalry game in Livingston County.
Yeah.
And they were happy to get he was so geeked though that he got to play in the game because last year he got hurt right before the rivalry game with Howell and missed a lot of the latter part of the season with an AC.
That was a 16-15 game last year.
Yeah,
the Howell game.
Exactly. And so he, you knew he was sitting on the sidelines the whole time thinking I could be a difference maker in a game. that we're losing. I talked to Coach Lemons after the game, and I said, "What did you learn in that first week against Belleville?" And he said, "We learned we could compete.
Yeah,
we belong in the field with them."
Yeah.
And
they went smoked Novi the next week.
Yeah, and
so.
they have held serve ever since then.
Yeah. Beat Canton.
Canton came to their place,
Yep.
Is thinking this is going to be our division
Yep.
since we got moved over from the East. And,
Yep.
knocked them off in overtime, and they've played a lot of close games this year too.
Mm-hmm.
But they've won those games, or they've pulled away in the fourth quarter, and
Yeah.
so it was hard to predict in August what Brighton was going to be, but now it's very clear that they're a very good defensive team,
That's
and
it.
they've got a good 1-2 punch, running the ball with a good line, and that's a really good recipe.
It is.
This is the year that Belleville has to kind of take it to the next
Yeah,
level.
absolutely.
Last year they had the undefeated regular season and then lost in the district finals, and this year obviously we know that they just have a cavalcade of stars. Over a dozen power conference guys on that roster, and as Alan said, going from senior class to freshman class. But it's hard to call this game for Belleville a statement game, but if I'm Belleville, I want to kind of make amends for letting that game almost slip out of my fingers in week one and having to rally and having to come back and beat a team that frankly has inferior talent. And I think if Belleville is going to make a strong run in this tournament, if they're going to make a run towards Ford Field, whether it be the regionals or the semifinals, that they're going to win this game by multiple touchdowns.
Well,
if not, it doesn't mean they won't have that type of run in them. But to me, if Belleville comes and wins this game by 10, 14, 17 points, to me that's saying we're ready for the playoffs.
Sure.
We're ready to go to Ford Field.
But I think all season long we've talked about their move into the KLA and using them as an example primarily was going to be so much better for them because in the Western Wayne they were tested twice a year.
Yeah.
And they had kind of bookends the last year with KLA teams, and they kind of squeaked out. Well, they squeaked out another fourth quarter comeback against Brighton in week one last year.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the season they had one of the Livonia schools,
They
I
had
think.
Salem.
Salem.
They beat Bedford, squeaked by Bedford, but then had Salem first round of the playoffs and won by 10.
Yeah.
And then lost to Canton by 3.
Yep.
This is it. I think if you are Jermaine Crowell, you are saying, let's start with our first year in the KLA. Let's have that title. Yep. Let's have that trophy right away. Let's get used to this feeling of raising it up after we win.
And let's do it authoritatively.
Yeah.
And I'm not. No
I agree.
disrespect to Brighton, but
Sure. I agree. And again, I went and saw them against Fortson. Fortson had a chance to tie that game in the last minute with a field goal they missed. 29-26 was that. But they blanked Stevenson 46-0. They beat Franklin 56-6 last week. So they are prepared to do that. And again, they're going to go up against, like you said, a really good defensive team, a team that shut out Northville and Salem before they played Howell last week. And they gave up 20 to Howell. But this will be great.
And one of the
this will be great.
That's one of the few defenses that slowed down Stephen Walker.
Yeah,
we talked about that he's gone bananas on people,
exactly.
except in that game.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, he was good in that game. He had, I think, 100 yards,
Yeah.
but it wasn't, 277 or
Right.
whatever.
And we're still trying to figure out where Stevie's going to end up in college. Going up against Belleville, if he can run it up in this one for him, when they play him.
I think Stevie Walker could end up, obviously, he's a great running back, but he could end up as a safety at the next level.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a hard-hitting safety. That's what that was the first time I noticed him last year.
Okay. All right. I'm digressing.
He's got another opportunity, though. How about this for a segue?
Yeah.
He's got another opportunity to let people know what he's all about against Fortson this week.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, that's a great matchup.
Yeah, no,
and Fortson's another one of those teams people forget. Oh, but just that 3-point loss to Belleville.
That's
so
it.
I think that'll be a great test for both. Stevie.
Their running
Walker.
attack is very good.
Yeah.
And they got some speedsters. And, that's going to be good. All right, some other games of interest. Let's get to these before we end the show and get our predictions in. Davison and Lapeer getting together.
Lightning versus the
We
Cards.
talked about covering this game. We just had Davison on recently and for the De La Salle game. But we decided we wanted to take a look at Saline and make sure we gave them some coverage. So this is where we were debating on what we were going to get to Lapeer because they're going to be in the playoffs and
They had a nice dub last week against Lakeland. Pounded Lakeland.
Real nice dub.
Lightning are rolling.
Davison, again, except for that hiccup which was De La Salle. Here they are going to Lapeer. They would want nothing more than to go into the playoffs with this win.
And they've done that to Lapeer teams in the past.
Okay.
I mean, Lapeer is one win away from their third unbeaten regular season since they combined the two schools. But it's lost its last 3 to Davison. They're 3-3 in those 5 years. There's a couple of playoff matchups. And even before the merger, Davison was 5-2 against Lapeer West and 1-0 against Lapeer East. So this has been a bugaboo for. Now it's not one where they played all the time, but it was kind of one of those regional. We run across you every once in a while matchups, and it wasn't one that Lapeer has done exceptionally well in. But you mentioned that they rolled over Lakeland last week, and it looks like Jalen Kirkland. I know he was dealing with an ankle, I think, or he'd been quiet for quite a little stretch of the middle part of the season for Lapeer. And they had some other kids who stepped into that role and did very, very well.
Running back.
Right? Yeah, running back for Lapeer.
Yeah.
Yep. 217 yards versus a Lakeland team that is more than capable of slugging it up.
Sides of the ball.
Yep, and that's exactly. It will be a little bit of a contrast in styles between the two teams. Davison a little more wide open, and Lakeland Lapeer is a little.
Davison has Cannon Hall, but Lapeer's got Brady Apple, and Brady has shown to be a formidable force under center for Lapeer.
Just very steady, and it's one of those where he doesn't have to put up the bananas numbers given the defense and the running game and the line that he's got. But Brady Apple has been one of those guys that you just look at and you go,
just good.
Wow, he's got a lot of wins in his career. Yeah.
Just good.
The way the bracketology is shaken out is that you'll have Lapeer maybe playing a Saginaw Heritage team who will squeak in. And Davison and Grand Blanc going at it on the other side and taking the winner of that one. So this is a game we could see coming up again in a couple of weeks. So, it'll be interesting to see how that one particularly plays out. Another one, Midland down. Midland, one quietly could arguably be the best rivalry in the history of Michigan high school football. Just saying. They've been at it a long time, and the records are pretty crazy.
1976.
It's crazy. And for those in the Midland area, know that Dow Midland every year is both teams 5-3. This one couldn't be set up.
Both teams lost their first 2 games of the year and 4-1 runs. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, this is one of those games you wish you could blow up there, on Friday night.
I do.
And the one loss for each of those teams in the last couple of weeks has been Mount Pleasant, that's unbeaten in his top 25. Yeah. And so you kind of look at the scores. Yeah, this when I worked at the Midland Daily News was the week that I hated working at the Midland Daily News because every single time it was accusations that you like Dow, you must have gone there. Right. You like Midland, you must have gone there. They didn't even know which school I went to, and I might not say.
Yeah.
But yeah, this rivalry is always they love being in this position because looking at the playoff points right now, Dow has the 24th most of the 5-3 teams, and Midland the 27th.
Okay.
So they're right on that bubble where might probably not going to get in if you don't win this game.
Yeah.
And they love that.
Yeah.
They love being the one that it doesn't matter what happens after that. If they can be the one that keeps the other team out of the playoffs, done. That's our season. We made it. That's it.
It's a punch your ticket bowl.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whoever wins this game, gets to get a reservation for the playoffs, and the other one's got to sweat it out on Sunday night.
Yep.
Canton and Fordson, we just mentioned it. They're getting together again. Fordson, a team that, like Belleville, benefiting from now being in the KLAA and facing good competition, getting themselves more battle-tested and hardened for the playoffs. A team that is one of those teams every year we're kind of in this same boat and expecting when's going to be the year they're going to make a long playoff run. This could be that year. Canton is a team that I thought was really going to accelerate, after I saw them really handle Plymouth. This is a game Canton wants. This is a game Fordson wants for sure going into the playoffs. Nobody wants to be a loser going into the playoffs. And I think that it will be a raucous atmosphere as the Tractor fans
Always
are going to be
in. These are, leading into the playoffs, and it will be a kind of a table setter for both teams.
Yeah, sure.
Because both these teams are in.
Yes.
And it will be a way for, like you said, to kind of test yourself against another really good team. And it's almost like the playoffs are starting a week earlier.
They are.
Yep.
And you're you get kind of a mulligan if you lose.
And the reason I say that is because they're both teams are going to have tough games right out of the gate in the playoffs. Right now, the bracketology has Detroit Catholic Central and Canton getting together to start the playoffs, which is rare because they usually play in the regionals. And then on the other side, you've got a perfect Grosse Pointe South team, 8-0, labeled up against Fordson. But the winner of that game gets the winner of Cass Tech Warren Mott, should that be the playoffs. So Fordson would have to beat an undefeated team and then go and take on a Cass Tech team that is at that point is now going to be ready to rock. So
sound daunting
no,
at all.
and if Canton somehow can beat Catholic Central, they would have to take the winner of West Bloomfield Plymouth, and we think West Bloomfield now is playing themselves ready for to prepare for their run. Although we'll see how they this. I think what they do this week is going to be.
They got Orchard Lake.
Yeah, they should really.
It's the first time that I think the two schools have played in like 40 years.
Wow,
amazing.
And they're like,
they're
Yeah.
less than a mile.
About a mile away. Yeah,
that is shocking to me.
Up that hill around the corner.
Unfortunately for Orchard Lake, I don't think they really have any way to get into the playoffs. So
No.
They had to-
last
they
week
had to
was
beat-
their
they had to
chance.
beat
that was it.
Motherwell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, they could have played their way into the championship
Championship
game
game,
if
yeah.
the math worked out right.
Yeah.
That's what we were trying to figure out last weekend. So
All right, so lots going on, lots happening, and lots. Go
Last
ahead.
thing I'll say, talking about the Catholic League Championship,
Yeah.
Marco Genrich
Yes.
is back with reckless abandon
Okay.
under center for Catholic Central. There were some questions about
wonder.
whether or not he was going to get back after he broke his wrist in week 3. He's in a cast.
Throwing his body
But
around.
you'd never know it
No,
with the way he's
no.
playing. He had over 200 yards combined 200 yards combined from scrimmage against DLS at the Elm in the part 1 of the 2-part series that they've played the last 2 years at the end of the season, and he'll go back at it this Saturday in the Catholic League title game. But having him and their backup Jack Beno was doing a really good job, but having that senior, that leader, that all Catholic League field general back there, it bodes really well for Catholic.
All right, so let's quickly get to our predictions here and wind this bad boy down. We'll work backwards. Canton Fordson. This one at Fordson, I am going to take the Tractors at home.
Tractors.
Fordson.
All right, that's interesting. Midland Dow Midland again. This is one that I think it's going to be a great game, and it's going to be a great game or it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take Dow on the road.
I'm going to take the Chemics, and clearly Matt can't stand the Chemics, so we're going to.
Oh, yeah.
I might lose my alumni status over this. I
yeah.
don't know.
I'm going Chemics.
I'm going to go Midland.
All right, so I'm the outlier.
So I can go to
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Davison and Lapeer. We talked about how big this is for Davison to kind of show that they are really a team. Lapeer obviously wants this monkey off their back, right? And great environment at Lapeer too. If you ever get an opportunity to see a high school football game, they're undefeated. I say they stay undefeated and go 9-0. I'm taking
Lightning
Lapeer.
strike.
Lightning.
I'm going to take Lapeer.
Okay. Let's move into the games that we'll watch on State Champs this week. We'll start with our main event, Detroit King, Detroit Cass Tech, the PSL Division I Championship. That's the game I'll be filming, so if you see me out there, please say hi. And don't throw anything at me. But especially if you're one of the fans that I'm going to pick against right now. So this is going to be a really, really interesting matchup. I think both teams are going to bring it. And it's going to come down, in my opinion, to the quarterback, and I'm going to side with Finn, and I'm going to take King.
Been there, done that, King.
King.
I'll take Cass Tech.
Okay.
Mostly so they don't murder me for dropping them down.
Ishpeming, Westwood, and Nagani. We're going up to the UP on State Champs this week. Not literally, but we have a camera team there that will be filming for us. Nagani needs a win. I'm going to take Nagani at home.
Miners.
Is that Nagani?
Yep.
Yeah, yes.
Yep.
Sorry.
Westwood are, I forget
Patriots.
what Patriots.
Yep.
Nagani. I'm going Nagani.
Yeah, it's the other Ishpeming team, the Hematites.
Hematites, yep.
Yes, that's how they
I'm going to go Nagani as
Co-
well.
Cody, okay, good, thanks. Oh, I thought you said that. All right, so we're all minors. Cody and Denby for the PSL D2 championship. This is going to be a good game, and again, it's going to matter. I'm going to go with my boy Stormin Norman, the head coach for Cody, and say Cody gets a championship.
I'm going to go with the Tars.
Okay.
I'm going to go Tershawn Wilkes and the Tars.
Okay.
I'm going to go Team Norman.
Okay. The fact that they came back and righted the revenge and beat Mumford was big for them. I think momentum will be there. We'll see. Ovid Elsie and Richmond. Richmond, a team that needs a win at home. Ovid Elsie, a lot to play for. And really having a solid season. I'm going to go Ovid Elsie on the road.
Taking both Ovid and Elsie.
Nice.
OE.
You know what? I'm going to go with Richmond at home.
All right.
How's that? I'm going to go with
Absolutely.
Richmond at home.
There you go. South Lyon East, the battle for bragging rights in the city. And again, South Lyon East needs a win. South Lyon has just been phenomenal this year. I think they're going to really just put their foot on the neck and tell them, not this year, boys. You're staying home. We're going to make a run.
Lions.
I think Lions paid that for last year.
South Lion's got to run the table in the regular season and put themselves in a position to have a special run in the playoffs. It's been a special season for Coach Henson, and
Yes.
they're going to keep it going.
Grand Blanc certainly would love to have a win at home, even though they'll probably get in at 5-4. You can pretty much lock that one in. Saline, a team we haven't seen on state champs this year. You've seen them. So we'll get a chance to see what they can do on TV. And I think Saline is a program that is perennially one of the best in the state, regardless of how far they've really gotten. They've had some unbelievable bad luck in the playoffs in some cases, and you make your own luck. I'm going Saline.
Saline, but Grand Blanc gets in, as you were talking about earlier. No doubt about it.
Hornets buzz to the win.
Yeah, Hornets.
Brighton and Belleville, the KLAA championship. Belleville would want nothing more than to start with this championship and then end with the last championship. Alan True said it. He said there are more college recruits in this program than anywhere else in the state, which is quite a statement.
And that says a lot.
That's quite a statement.
With the Casses and the West Bloomfields and the Southwood A&Ts,
right?
Consistently putting a dozen kids
and
every
the Muskegans
year.
now.
Yeah, Muskegon,
absolutely. But what they've built over there in that little lake city,
a microwave, contendership. They went from kind of an afterthought to, now they're in the mix.
Yep, and I had a chance to go there and watch. They've got like a 200-member marching band. It's insane. They take the entire end zone out. They're going to be up for this one. Brighton is really going to be up for. I'm taking Belleville at home.
Les Tigres de Belleville.
Much as I wanted to take Will Johnson and Brighton, I think Belleville's just got too much.
Belleville, but I think this is going to be close. Even though I think if you're Belleville, you want to make a statement going into the playoffs. But I think this is going to be a close game. Belleville by a touchdown.
Yeah, Dewey Reed, that's the quarterback.
Christian
right?
Dewey Reed.
Yeah, he can sling it. And
only a sophomore.
Yeah, only a sophomore, but very heady.
136 yards in that first matchup.
Yeah, he can run, he can throw, and X factor Julian Barnett.
Yep.
And I think he will make plays on both sides of the ball. And as a receiver, really underrated, and can just go up and get it. And you just throw it to him, and he's going to go up and get it. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for participating once again in the podcast. Let me give you a little preview about what we plan on doing next week, and here's what's going to happen. It's going to be next Friday night for the first weekend of the playoffs. I think it's October 26th, I think is the date. We're just going to set up a camera in the studio, and we're going to go just raw, live results as they come in. 10 p.m. we'll kick it off, and we'll sit there. We'll just kind of, some people will float in and out. Sean and I will have to do some highlights, so we'll dip out, here and there, but we're just going to have a conversation, let it roll. We'll see if we could set it up where we could take some phone calls and maybe do some of that, but we'll be live.
Cool.
We'll do it live, hopefully on Facebook and hopefully on YouTube. We'll see what KT can come up with.
Real-time reaction.
Yes,
Love it.
exactly. And it'll
Love
be
it.
kind of this is a kind of sweet thing we want to do for those, and I got it last night at the grocery store about how much they miss
the radio
show.
I heard it 6 times this weekend.
Okay.
Every game.
Isn't that insane? I was like, well,
Because it became like a habit.
It was.
Even though
It was only
you got into your car.
Driving home on a Friday night,
Yeah,
you're
I know.
absolutely right.
I literally had a referee who turned around and went, "Hey, what happened to the radio show?" One of the side judges, I'm like, "Aren't you supposed to be throwing a flag?"
Yeah, I know. So, we'll see. Well, again, if JR can somehow find that FM signal, we talked about it before, and if that they have one, but whether that works. We'll see.
I'm
Maybe
trying,
we'll do
my
something.
friend.
I don't think we can pay. I don't think we could afford 97.1 anymore, everyone, and that's just the way it is. Anyway, we shall see. If somehow we could craft something where we've got a game of the week on a station.
What a great idea.
Yeah, and then state champs coming right out of that. I think we could have a nice little high school block there for the night.
Be a lot of fun.
Fans would find it and
a
would
lot of
love
fun.
it. So we shall see. Again, at State Champs, we're always kind of doing new stuff, and we're always open to different things, and we just want to do what we feel is going to generate the most noise and give respect and props to high school football, and all the publications just seem to not have that love anymore. And Matt and Scott, if you go to our website, statechampsnetwork.com, are still in this game and the journalism game, and are doing great things on our website. And again, we got Indiana going now, and we're trying to grow that as well. And we're going to take over this whole Midwest thing. It's just going to... It's
only a matter of time.
That's right. We're just going to zigzag
We're
our
gonna
way there. It
plant
won't be a
flags
straight
all over
line.
the Midwest.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. So that's what we plan on doing next week. So we'll probably get some more promos. If we do a podcast before that, we might get together and just do a quick playoff preview or something, and go over kind of what we think, and maybe even make some finals previews. The selection show is Sunday on Fox Sports Detroit. It's at 7 p.m., so make sure you check it out. And immediately once they announce all the playoff matchups, then you can go down to MHSA.com and consume it and check it out. And then, of course, Snooze's bracketology will be up when we get the official thing. So we're really looking forward to that. Always a great time. And I guess it'll probably be Matt Shepard and Rob Rubick again, I'm assuming. I do not know.
Yeah.
But everybody always says, like, hey, you're Fox Sports. I was like, no, we air on Fox Sports. We don't work there. But anyway.
Matt Shepard, the future play-by-play announcer for the Tigers.
Could be. Huh?
I don't know what would throw them off.
Yeah, that's true. Well, because that's how we roll. All right, guys. So that's it. Thanks again for watching. We will talk to you next week, and again, live show next week. We'll give you more details later. See ya.